Today we will be starting a 3-part series of recipes we've made here in our homestead kitchen. The first part will be our basil pesto. The second part will be our cajeta, which is a Mexican caramel sauce. And the third part will be our homemade goat's milk yogurt, made in our Instant Pot. We hope that you will like this 3-part series from inside our homestead kitchen. Thanks for joining us. God bless. We are going to make basil pesto today. I did that big harvest of my basil plants yesterday and I don't want it to go to waste. We use pesto in a lot of our pasta dishes instead of using pasta sauces. Sometimes we just want a light version of pasta, and so we will mix in 2 or 3 tablespoons of pesto versus the sauce, and it coats the pasta really well and gives it a flavor without having a heaviness to it. So this is a good alternative. But anyway, in my food processor I have 2 cups of fresh basil leaves. You do not want the stems because they're going to be woody and hard, and it just won't be good to bite into a stem. So you want your fresh basil leaves in here. Now to this, you're also going to add, and basil is one of those things, it's very aromatic and it smells so good. Fresh basil just smells wonderful to me. Sometimes you just want to hang a sprig of it around to give your room a nice fresh smell. And a lot of people say it smells like summer, and it really does. But to this, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of walnuts. Now you can use pine nuts or pecans, whatever nuts you have on hand, but I have walnuts on hand. Now I like pine nuts, but they're harder to find than your traditional nuts like pecans and walnuts. So I'm not going to measure this out per se. I'm just going to say, okay, that would be like a tablespoon, and you're going to add that in, and you want about 2 of those. You can always add a few extra if you want. That'd be great. We like nuts. We like walnuts especially, so we'll add a few extra in there. And also to that, you're going to have 2 large cloves of garlic. And then put the separate pieces in there around. And do the same thing with your second clove. Now, garlic's one of those things. Some people like them, some people don't. We like garlic. You can leave this out if you don't like garlic, or if you really like garlic, you can add more. But this particular recipe calls for 2 large cloves. So let's get this cleaned off real quick. Now the next thing we're going to do is, now that we've had our nuts and our basil leaves and our cloves of garlic in here, we're going to close up our food processor. And we're going to pulse this until everything in here is minced up really well. So this is going to be a little loud. See, looks like what you guys see, what we have. So now we'll put our top back on. Now that we've got that to the consistency we want. And the next thing you're going to add is a 1/2 cup of extra virgin olive oil. Now this, I use this as a Food Line brand, and it says robust taste, extra virgin olive oil. We're going to add this in. While it's processing, we're going to just drizzle it in. Now that we have our olive oil in there, I'm going to take a spatula and just kind of scrape the sides down just to make sure everything gets incorporated in there well. It's looking really good. Alrighty, and next I'm going to add just a little bit of salt just to give it a little extra flavor. This is not in the recipe, but this is to our liking. So a little bit of, this is pink Himalayan salt. I don't want to do too much because it can be overpowering, and you can add more as you want it. The next thing we're going to add to that is going to be our 1/2 cup of grated Parmesan, freshly grated Parmesan cheese. Now I have some in here that I've already grated up from my previous batch I did. So we're just going to add that in there. Okay. Alright. Alright, that should do it. blade. good and incorporated. Now this is a nice dark green color. Now one thing I've noticed too, especially with the fresh basil, is that air gets to it. It's kind of like when you make guacamole and avocado. If you don't put that actual preservative on it, it can start to turn brown. But we're going to freeze this, and I'm going to make it as airtight as I can while I'm freezing it to keep that brown from happening. Now what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to transfer this to ice trays. And I have a couple plastic ice trays here. And that way I can freeze individual cubes. And after these are frozen, I'll take these out, and then you can store them either in a mason jar in the freezer or in a Ziploc bag or something like that. And you're going to just take out what you need. Like if you want a couple of cubes to put in your pasta, or you're making some other kind of saute and you want your pesto in that saute, then you just take out what you need. So probably would be the equivalent, I would say, of a couple of tablespoons per cube. So let's get this done. Try not to make a mess. You don't want any of this goodness to go to waste. This is also good if you are want to add a little kick to toasted bread, like French bread or Italian bread. And you can put some of this on your bread and then bake it, toast it up. And it just gives your toast a kick. So, and there's several other ways you can preserve your basil. One way is you can actually freeze the leaves themselves. You wash them, dry them off, and then I would put them on like a cookie sheet on some parchment paper or something like that, and then like kind of flash freeze them or pre-freeze them so that they're separated out. I planted a whole lot of basil and I hadn't really intended on growing that much, but the seeds just germinated so well and I had so much. So I planted them all out and I had to put them in spaces just to fit them into the garden scheme. But it's actually ended up being a big blessing, because now I have garlic, now I have basil to last me through to the winter when you can't grow basil. And through the summer when some basils don't like a lot of the heat and they'll start to bolt. Some of mine have started trying to go to flower, but I've been keeping the flower buds snipped off. And the more you prune your basil, the thicker and bushier it'll get. So just make sure you keep the flower buds picked off. And you can just go and just snap them right off the top. So these aren't all evenly sized, but they'll do well. And there's your tray of basil. And so what I'm going to do now is get some cling wrap. Like I said, I want to try to keep as much air up as possible because I don't want it to go brown on me. And we'll just cover this really well. And this is that press and seal. So I'm kind of pressing it down around each individual one. And this probably won't take very long to freeze, because olive oil, when it gets cold, it solidifies pretty quick. So, but there's our tray. We'll stick this in the freezer, let it freeze, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it comes out. We finished up the pesto, the basil pesto. When I last left you, we were putting it in the ice tray to freeze it. It is frozen now, and you can see it looks really good. It's got a nice dark green color to it. It didn't turn brown, so that's a plus. And so now we're just going to pop it out of the ice tray and put it in the Ziploc bag and put it back in the freezer to keep for whenever we need to use it. Like I said, you can take these out individually and use them in cooking with your pasta. When you want to make marinades or anything like that, you can use this. So that's one way to preserve some of your harvest of your basil. So hope you enjoyed this video today. If you like what you've seen in this video, hit that like button down at the bottom, and also consider subscribing to our channel if you haven't done so already. We'd love to have you as part of the Good Steward Homestead family. Stay tuned for future videos on other things we'll be doing around our homestead, such as canning, the garden tour videos, and any other projects we may have coming up soon. We thank you for joining us, and we hope you have a blessed day.